Not exactly hidden. The problem with a sixth sense for danger is that they just tell you something is wrong. You need to rely on your other senses to actually give you more than an alarm going off in your head. This is why General Frey had what remained of her forces on high alert. After the communication cut off and complete debacle of the raid on Nodok, she had been walking on the tips of her toes in caution. Earlier in the day, she had sensed great danger and had nearly gone into a panic as she tried to find and slay the source, but had found nothing, just like what had happened to her forces. Losing an entire battalion was nothing to sneeze at, but the fact that her only hint of what happened was that the troops were just gone and the target city was damaged, but still standing, had put her on edge. Now her reflexes were screaming at her, run, hide, fight, all of them at once. So that's what she did as she prepared her personal ship to get off Serbo. She could return later with a stronger force to pummel whatever was gunning for her, but first she had to survive. It couldn't be a sorcerer. Her instincts were just confused. It takes years, if not a full decade, for a sorcerer to fully manifest. She just had them on the brain since that Vernon character revealed he was a skilled but far from strong one. Although, to be fair, if someone lost their horns and tail in a mutilating accident, that would drive someone to the woods. Odd name, though. Not only had that happened, but they had actually worked together to assist the Bone Chewer's reemergence, and if that didn't necessitate a change of clothing, nothing would. Sure, there were stories about that psychopath, but to have them confirmed, to actually see multiple sorcerers systematically hitting targets and ripping apart the opposition, scary as all hell. Making my evac. See you all in orbit, she says into her communicator as she races to her small system jumper. It was a tiny ship, could be crewed alone, and had room for maybe 2 passengers. 3 if you didn't need elbow room. It was the equivalent of a one-woman air bike on the galactic scale, but so small it was almost impossible to detect, and fast enough to dip around and evade larger ships. And when the danger level is this insane, you need to maneuver. She rushes into the personal ship and goes through the automated startup sequence. All the switches are flipped. Everything is in order and there's a breath on her neck. She spins around to attack and finds a hand clamping around her wrist. She has little room to maneuver, so she stomps down on her attacker's feet to try and get some room. Male, larger than her, golden yellow hair and tanned skin. No horns, no visible weapons, no tail. Not a puck, so not fireproof. She exhales a plume of blue flames tinged with red directly into his face. He flinches back, and as she can barely move, she uses this time to go into a goring headbutt with her horns. The top of her head slams into the top of his as he deflects the attack, and the wind is forced out of her lungs as a brutal knee is rammed into her gut. A hand grabs her face, and she has just barely enough time to make out an unharmed face wreathed by living vines as the entry ramp to her shuttle closes automatically. The consciousness is forced from her even as an icy fist of terror grips her heart. Money well spent is money well spent. A villa on Lilb Tulel by the sea would be wonderful. The creatures there didn't grow anywhere near so large as the leviathans of the deep, so swimming in the ocean was not only possible, but encouraged. It was so nice to have a little windfall now and then, even when you were a countess. It was oh so clever of her to suggest that they wear the markings of that near-pauper Uth Tyr. Obese Tars nearly giggled at the thought. Oh, imagine when that silly, small-minded little girl suddenly had to deal with the fallout of Obese's own actions rather than her own. What use is there in playing safe, or honestly, if others won't? It's simply good sense to take advantage of your positions as best you're able. Everyone else is, so there's no stigma against it. She walks through the lavish halls of her home and pauses. She looks back at the art gallery and then shakes her head. It was just her imagination. She turns away and finds herself face to chest with a stranger. She lets out a shriek of shock and staggers backwards. dark brown hair, male, towering like a monolith and pale skin. If not for his crude clothing and angry expression, she would think he's a stripper for her pleasure. He tilts his head to the side and there's a cracking sound like limbs breaking. He tilts it the other way and there are more. "What are you doing in my manor?" she demands in fury. He says nothing. "Guards! Guards! There is an intruder! Take this peon outside and cast him to the thirsting masses for daring to... Guards! Where are you?" "They're not coming," he says in flawless cinder tongue. The classic Apuk language spilling forth from alien lips makes her huff an angry plume of fire. Not only does he violate the sanctity of her home, but he butchers the language of her ancestors. "Not come? What mean not come?" she demands in cinder tongue. She's clunky and ill-experienced with it. It's just not used anywhere near enough to be a practical language anymore, so the elegance of it is lost. "They're not coming. It is as simple as that. I hope your heiress is prepared, else there shall be hard times ahead for the Tars County," he says as he takes a step towards her. "Heiress? But you... No!" She spits out a lungful of red fire tinged with blue at his face, and he walks through unharmed. She picks up the hem of her dress and flees. "Guards! Guards! Your callousness cost you everything," the man's voice says from right behind her. Unlike her, he's still speaking in cinder tongue and with an ease that only scholars and sorcerers possess. She glances back to see him just a few steps away, but moving at a comfortable walk rather than a frantic sprint as she pulls away. She reaches the doors to the next wing and pulls them open, only to shriek in shock as he's already there and she flees again. The strange pursuit between his unhurried pace and her panicked escape continues again. She rounds a corner and screams to find that he's already at the other end of the hall and walking up in that strange, measured pace. The plush carpet causes her to skid and she turns to the Arboretum. All wings of the manor open into it and it opens into the sky. If she can just get out of the building, she can do an axiom-assisted jump onto the roof and then away. He can't suddenly round a corner in open sky. She opens the glass doors to the elegantly crafted garden in full, vibrant bloom regardless of the season and rushes in. She cuts through the central copse of perfectly manicured trees and ends up in darkness. Vine and root twine around her and she screams until she's gagged. "Perhaps this will be a benefit to your people in the long term. You are particularly unsuited to reign over others," the sorcerer says as she's whisked away through the dark forest. The sound of an axiom engine chugging and a burst of cursing as the crowd gasps. The low-altitude float carrying the Duchess has stopped to avoid slamming into a strange, dark-skinned man. Tree bark brown of flesh with the color bleached from his tightly braided rows of hair. Vest, pants, and sandals are all he wears as he stares down a machine that could crush him like a bug and the amassed security force that could burn him into a crisp with fire, laser, and plasma. Before anyone says anything, he jumps up onto the front of the vehicle, and there's a cry of shock from the crowd as from his footprints grasses and vines grow upwards, cracking the road and gripping into the vehicle to hold it firm. He says nothing as he continues to move, his every footstep crushing the float further and further as he advances on the raised podium on its back. "Duchess Mazertwin," he states out loud even as the vines completely encircle the machine. His voice breaks whatever spell there was to some foreign alien man doing something absurd, and he's met with a storm of spat fire and laser blasts. The flames clear to find him completely covered in vines and dark green leaves. The crowd screams as the almost quietly encircling vines decide that now is the time to be scary, as they suddenly sprout towards the ground and crush the vehicle inwards. The sudden destruction of the vehicle sends everyone flying but the sorcerer, who casually hops off the shredded chunk of metal and plastics. The road cracks and shatters in a line out from him, and grasses and vines grow out until they get under the falling Duchess. She hits the grass and is gone. Then the sorcerer is gone as well. A royal lady taken in broad daylight, her guard helpless but only bruised by his wrath. And it was a wrath, contained and controlled, but very, very clear in its intended target. Her communicator going off from an unknown but public number was odd. But there were always chances for unusual business opportunities, hence why Lyanna kept it that way. She was a busy woman, and there was a warning that frivolous and pointless calls would involve legal action. Still, you never knew when advantage would come. "Hello?" she asks, pleasantly, putting it on speaker. "Hello, is this Lyanna Gemblossom? It's a man on the other side. How interesting. Perhaps he was looking to improve his own marital status. This could be intriguing. She was so busy gaining wealth and power that a family just never had a chance." Was a chance coming to her? "I am. Whom am I speaking to?" she asks. "Excellent." He answers and the call ends. Was he disconnected? She asks before she feels a wrenching sensation in the axiom, and she spins to see what could possibly be going on. A tanned hand grabs her by the face, and there's a distinctly different wrenching sensation in the axiom. Suddenly, they're both falling in darkness, and there's a blur to show he's landed on something before many, many things wrap around her. She tries to scream, but in moments she's gagged. "Sorry, Toots. Actions have consequences. The people of Nodok send their greetings." The man taunts from the darkness, and a chill passes through her soul. She cannot scream, for she is gagged. But that does not stop her from trying. "Miss Silverscale, there is a message for you in the foyer." A voice announces over the intercom, and Alicia ignores it. There are 4 Silverscales working in this pool alone. They need to be a lot more specific than that. "Miss Alicia Silverscale, there is a strip-o-gram for you in the foyer." The announcer says, and Alicia stops dead. A strip-o-gram? Who would? It was one of those self-indulgent royals, wasn't it? This isn't good. She needs to get the hired hooker to leave before he spills her secrets. She doesn't even log off as she swims down the flooded hallways to the entrance. The landbound come down from above and the swimmers from below. It worked. Her passage is greeted with cheers and hollers of approval and laughter. A few women even start swimming after her as she climbs upwards through the central shaft. It's well lit, very well tiled, and there are even artistic touches that are pleasing to the eye as she climbs. Although according to rumors there were some places where there were small mistakes that could only be deliberate, that were driving some women nearly insane to see them. As she crests to the surface, the background drone of the many filters fades away to a mild hum in the distance. Odd that it's always loudest when she's this far away. Heavy boots grind into the floor as Alicia climbs out and sits down to wring out her hair a little. The stripper is approaching. Bowl-cut hair he's going to, no doubt, slick back. Drab skin. Eyes hidden by glass lenses on wire, and a full-body outfit that no doubt has layers and layers beneath with the message on them. Her name is printed out with what looks like tape on the front of the jacket. So this was a cheap message, not even letting her keep the clothes as a treat. Why is it that the people with the most money were always the greediest and grubbiest with it? He gestures to the taped-on name with a raised eyebrow over his glasses. Yes, that's me. Look, can we take this somewhere private? This is very inappropriate for public. She trails off as he starts to unzip the jacket and reveals there is nothing on underneath it. There is a single word written on his clearly defined and mouth-watering abs: justice. Then he lunges at her, and his hand clamps around her neck. "For Nodok!" he snarls before they both hit the water. Then they're both simply gone.